I've tried to stream two times today, but girl, I don't know what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, hopefully everything goes well now. I'm just trying to wait for everything to load on my phone so I can see everything properly, and we can start. So I don't know if you're watching this in the future, like just skip a little, just disregard this. Thank you. Let me exit out and then come back in and try to see. But like live streaming is hard. Like I don't know how the Twitch girlies and all of y'all do that, cause that's crazy. That's
Here's
it's
everything
so
in pop
crazy.
culture this past week. Sabrina Carpenter announced that she's releasing a new album titled Man's Best Friend coming.
Okay, so basically, what today's video is gonna be about though is that the whole discourse that y'all have been giving to, okay, I can see it now, but the whole discourse that y'all have been giving to Sabrina Carpenter's album cover, it's a little bit too much. Like it's entirely too much. So I really want to get into that, and I think I just want to watch a couple of videos up here. That's why I have, this little screen in the background and all of that. So let me just exit out a little bit so I can actually see everything and talk to y'all about it. So yeah, hold on. This is why I can't stream. Like this is so hard. This is like, wow, this is crazy. This is actually crazy. Okay, I'm trying to see if y'all can actually see what's going on. But there's this one video by this creator called Aphrodisia, I believe her name is, or like Aphrodisia. I think that's her name. And she just had dropped a video about Sabrina Carpenter. It's like titled, as you can see, for the girls or the gays. And I was watching the video and I was like, this kind of like represents all of the things that I've been seeing online about all of this. So I'm just like, okay, this can be the video that we will watch about it. So, but also I think that probably a TikTok would also suffice about this video. I mean, about the whole topic. So I don't know. I'm just gonna play it and we're gonna see. This video is 30 minutes though. We're not gonna.
It's all just so familiar, baby. What do you call it? Stupid. Oh, a lot of people also criticize Sabrina, saying that the.
Okay, so first of all, let me get into it. So Sabrina Carpenter's new album, she announced it. It's gonna be coming out August 29th. This is the cover. This is the cover. Right? My initial thoughts, without looking at anything else, my initial thoughts, I don't know, like it's just a cover. It's not my favorite cover, but the album is titled Man's Best Friend, playing on the whole dog nature of, I guess, women or whatever. And she just released her song called Man Child. The video, it's happening, right? She's playing into like these older aesthetics and all that stuff, right? And I'll just say this, I'm a Sabrina Carpenter fan, short and sweet. It was that album, it was that girl. Really loved it because it really was short and sweet. Like, I'm sorry, sometimes I don't have time for a long album. And I had to listen to this album and then all these other songs that are forgettable. Like, they're forgettable. But she made the album short and sweet. I could remember every single song. I could remember the melodies. So I was really happy about that. I love the album. I loved it. Beautiful gowns. Everything was nice. Love the marketing. Love the design. Like everything. Ooh. She did that. But yeah, so I liked her last album. I am a little bit biased, but I'm going to try to be unbiased in, when talking about the new album and stuff that's going on. When I first seen this cover, I originally was like, it's just not my favorite. It's not my favorite. I think the main thing with this cover, which is why it's not my favorite, is because she could have done something different. I think that's really my main thing. It's like, we've seen people be in poses like this or whatever before. That's why, like, in a lot of her music and stuff, she has referenced older decades in terms of like visual style and music and stuff like that too. So I was just like, okay, yeah, cool. But people have pulled up examples of like past photos, like from those decades, and been like, yeah, like this is kind of regressive. And I just feel like just from an artistic way, not even from necessarily like a feminist viewpoint, just from an artistic way, it is regressive where it's like, it's kind of nothing new in the sense like, but if you're thinking about it from like a photography perspective, composition wise, you know, it's good. It looks like it was filmed on a film camera. The lighting is good. Nothing's like overexposed. I don't even think like the drapes or anything, like everything is like technically good, right? But I was just like, oh, it's not my favorite. I think if you did want to talk about, hey, I always go for the wrong people when it comes to dating and stuff like that, yeah, that's cool. But I think we could have just had something that was kind of like more focused on her in the album cover. Like if I didn't see her face in the cover, like not if I didn't see her face, but if I didn't know who this woman was, I would be like, okay, you know. I just think the album cover could have been different, and we could have probably had like more focus on, I don't know, like the positions could have been swapped, like something like that. I just think it would cause commotion and discourse, but also it would be something new that we haven't seen. That's why, like in my last video talking about the substance, I was like, yeah, the ending is like, it's technically like you could be like, oh, the ending is good or whatever, you know, she comes to terms with who she is, but it's like it's not different. And I feel like in society we're ready for something different. We've been seeing all these other things. We see people on TikTok talking about, oh, I've accepted myself, I know who I am, yada yada yada. I think in a movie, you know, where we can have anything happen, why, you know, settle on something that we've like already seen happen, like try to make the ending different or whatever. But yeah, I think she definitely could have went in a different direction, but it's cool, whatever. I'm not mad at it. People are like, oh, this is aggressive or whatever. I mean, yeah, but I don't think this album cover is setting feminism back. Like I really don't. Like this one album cover sent us back decades, not the policies that are being enacted and enabled in all these places around the world. Like none of that's setting us back, but this is. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, let's actually get into what other people have been saying, because girl, I don't know. Hopefully y'all can see this, but yeah.
Original cover was not appropriate given the current political climate in the US when women's control over their bodies are being taken away by the US, and it's kind of insensitive. So interesting developments, but let's keep looking back at some of the controversy caused by the original album cover.
I don't have ad blocker, so
I'd just like to take a moment to recognize all those women who never got a chance to be treated with fiancé, didn't say, never fulfilled it. Her thinness and her cuteness make the performance read as ironic rather than threatening.
Every time you breathe this air, just know I was already there.
If Megan Thee Stallion did the same pose, it wouldn't be called camp, it would be called obscene. And this isn't new. Just look at Marilyn Monroe in Eartha Kitt. Monroe's childlike sensuality became iconic, but her sex symbol status wasn't self-made. Her Playboy debut wasn't even a career move for her. It was just a republished nude calendar shoot, which she...
Okay, so one of the first things that I want to... Hi, hope you're doing well. I don't know why this isn't showing up. I should exit full screen, I guess. And probably just zoom in. But hi, hope you're doing well. We're talking about this Sabrina Carpenter album cover controversy, and all that stuff. But we're watching this video by Aphrodisia, and yeah. So one of the first critiques that I've seen somebody say is that like, oh, you know, she's allowed to do this type of pose and stuff, but nobody else is. Like people, not nobody else is, but like. Hi, I have to look down to see, so I can't really see anything. Also, like I think that the stream's lagging a little bit, so yeah, I am saying hi, but you probably can't see. I don't know. It's my first time streaming, so you know I'm a little a little messy at it. But one of the first critiques that I want to get into is that people have been saying, oh, she's allowed to do this, but if a woman of color did, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. So let's see what she has to say on that, and then I'll talk about it.
Performance read as ironic rather than threatening.
Every time you breathe this air, just know I was already there.
If Megan Thee Stallion did the same pose, it wouldn't be called camp, it would be called obscene. And this isn't new. Just look at Marilyn Monroe in Eartha Kitt. Monroe's childlike sensuality became iconic, but her sex symbol status wasn't self-made. Her Playboy debut wasn't even a career move for her. It was just a republished nude calendar shoot, which she didn't even consent to. She was pulled into the male gaze long before she could narrate it herself. Eartha Kitt, on the other hand, was direct and sexually self-possessed, and she paid for it. Denied roles, branded difficult. One woman's submission was glamorized while the other's autonomy was punished.
Bonnie Blue's petting zoo was cancelled because...
Okay, so Okay. Hi. Today we're talking about Sabrina Carpenter, her album cover, and her controversy that's been going around it. I'm mostly getting into like other people's commentary about it because I don't agree with some of the things that people have said about her album cover. So I'm just gonna get into that. So in this video, one of the first critiques that somebody said is, oh, she can get away with this because of the way she looks, but if another woman or other women did the same thing, women of color did this, they wouldn't be able to get away with it. And I think in general, there definitely is a conversation to be had about how women of color are treated when they do certain things, when they do the same things as other people, and they get demonized for doing the exact same thing. But I think when people are talking about Sabrina Carpenter specifically, people have had they've just had terrible examples of who they're comparing. Because I've seen in this video, she just compared Megan Thee Stallion to Sabrina Carpenter. And it's like, yeah, they're both artists. But one of the main things is like they're both artists. They both do different genres of music. So that's one. Subject matter is, you can say the same. But the way in which they talk about this stuff is different. The way in which they market themselves as artists is different. The way they perform is different. So I just think that it's an unfair comparison to do, because it's just like they're different artists. It's really not fair. And I was ranting about this stuff way better earlier because I don't know, there wasn't a camera in front of my face. I could just talk. But I feel like when we look at two people who you probably could compare, like let's just say Sabrina Carpenter, right? In her new song Man Child, she's talking about, like the people that I've chose to date, they're lame, but like I swear they choose me and all this stuff, right? I feel like an artist that kind of has similar music about, like low-key like dating losers would be SZA. And I feel like SZA has also, like sexualized herself in some of like her videos and stuff, her music videos and all that. So I don't know. I feel like SZA and Sabrina Carpenter would be a better comparison if we want to get into how these two artists are, first of all, similar, but also they're different races. One's allowed to do this, one's not. But in my opinion, I think that they're both kind of like, I don't know. People are only outraged more so at Sabrina. Like I don't really see people being outraged as SZA like that. So even in that, if we use them as an example of women who do similar things, they don't even get critiqued the same. So it's like, well, because the argument definitely still stands because, historically there have been black women who, just existed with their shape and size, and they've been demonized for it, yet weirdly like sexualized at the same time. And there have been, other women who look the same, similar to them, and they're just like, oh yeah, okay, cool, or right, or if they do get criticized, like it's not to the same extent. So yeah, I just think people are using like terrible examples. Like that's one. There's no reason to compare Megan Thee Stallion and Sabrina Carpenter and be like, yeah, same comparison. We got them. We got, like, that's just not a good comparison. Later on in this video, she compares Cupcake and Megan Thee Stallion. Completely different. I guess, oh, I didn't even think about this, but she has a picture of Tyler up here. I would even say Tyler would be a better example because they do kind of do the same thing where it's like these are both petite women who make like really fun and cool music, but you could say one's treated worse than the other. But even then, I don't even think Tyler is necessarily like treated negatively or gets all this outrage, right, for the stuff that she's done. I think in this specific case, the main reason why Sabrina Carpenter is getting criticism is because of the type of pose that she did. It's not even because she's being sexual, it's because of the pose that she did. A lot of the other women, they haven't done these specific poses. Even when they have sexualized themselves, it wasn't necessarily where a man was there, like this in this Ice Spice artwork or in the Tyler artwork. There's no man there, so and there's not necessarily like this. Oh, they're being submissive. I think that's what people are kind of mad at too, because like, look at the political climate. Why are you doing this right now? Which is like that's its own thing, but like I think one of the main problems with this conversation is people are like, oh, how dare Sabrina Carpenter do this during this era and time period? No one else will be able to get away with that. No one else is really doing what she's doing, first of all. And I think it's unfair to be like, no one else could get away with this. Y'all not letting her get away with it either. So the critiques that people have been making, it's just like, they low-key don't make sense. Like, y'all aren't even let her, y'all ain't let the album be out. The album's not even out. Y'all didn't even let the album cover be out for a full day before y'all started having your own critiques. Which I think critiques can be valid. If you want to critique it, go ahead. But let's not act like, I don't even know, like, let's not act like nobody's critiquing her, but other people have been criticized for doing the exact same thing. So y'all have to critique her because no one else is doing it. That doesn't even make sense. Like, y'all are already doing the thing that y'all are saying isn't happening. And then y'all have poor examples of why other women aren't allowed to do what she does. Like, it's just not making, the consonants aren't meeting. So that's just one. Let's let the video play though.
It crossed the line, but probably not to be at.
Another thing is too, like, people have been comparing Sabrina Carpenter, Bonnie Blue, and Sweeney to each other, and it's just like, that's not a fair comparison either, because not only are they all doing entirely different things, but you can say like, oh, they're blonde women with blue eyes, they look similar, and in some way they are sexualizing themselves. You can say that, but they're also just doing it in entirely different ways, and we're not gonna act like Bondi Blue and Sabrina Carpenter are doing the exact same thing. Like, we're just like, y'all are being disingenuous. These critiques not making sense. But I do want to get into this one part of this video that really got me, where I don't even know where it's at.
Indigenous people in the Americas were treated the way that they were by Americans. It was the idea that these
carefully aestheticized, market ready, and wrapped in just enough cleverness to make it go viral and make people write a million think pieces on it.
If you want to call this cover satirical or ironic, I'm going to force you to look at the definition of satire. The use of humor, irony.
So now we get to the second school of thought.
Ink so bright it pops up.
Okay, let's skip these ads, cause let's skip these ads. Okay.
Some have argued the image contradicts the song, that the cover makes her look submissive while the lyrics paint her as this fed up queen. But that's not quite right, because if you actually listen to Manchild, it's not necessarily a takedown of men, but more of a confession. Sabrina's not condemning emotionally stunted men, she's saying that she likes them.
Oh, I like my boys playing hard to get, and I like my men all incompetent.
The song is about attraction to dysfunction, emotionally immature, helpless men who take and take, who she can't stop wanting, since she knows they're man-children and still she chooses them. So the cover in this scenario, it fits. She's styled like a pet, she's on all fours, hair in a man's grip. It's not really mocking the male gaze, it's more indulging in it. The image doesn't contradict the song, it echoes it, and that's what makes it a bit harder to sit with, because if this is her truth and not satire, then we have to ask, why is this dynamic sexy in the first place? Why does infantilization read as flirty? Why does submission feel like desire? And no, the answer isn't just kink or irony or self-awareness. Desire doesn't come out of nowhere. It's shaped by patriarchy, by pop culture, by porn.
Okay, that's another thing that I want to get into. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, I know that things don't exist in a vacuum, but a lot of what you see on the internet when people talk about the male gaze and the female gaze will literally be about people saying things like, oh, hey, this is me dressing for the female gaze versus me dressing for the male gaze, or like what the female gaze looks like versus what the male gaze looks like. And so many times you just see people saying that, oh, like women are inherently doing things for the male gaze, even if you're not thinking about it, and doing this and doing that and doing that. And it's like, I think that's a whole nother conversation to have. I don't think that every single thing that somebody does is going to be for someone else's gaze. I don't. I know we don't live in a vacuum. I know that society shapes culture and that all of these different ideas exist because of society and time and all of that stuff. But like, if we're going to be so honest, I don't think just because somebody is, doing a certain dance or wearing a certain outfit that like immediately they're just doing this for the male gaze. It just has to be for the male gaze. Like, no, people can do things without doing them for others. Like, they can do things because they like it. I could wear this shirt, it has pink in it. Oh, pink's associated with women. That's a stereotype that has switched from the past. If you look into like history and art history, pink used to be associated with men and all that stuff. But oh, I'm wearing pink, that's something that's associated with femininity now, and men like femininity. So because I'm wearing something with pink in it, I have to be doing that for the male gaze. No, that's not true. And things don't have to exist like that. So I think even when it comes to her album cover, I don't necessarily think that it's necessarily for the male gaze. I don't know. Y'all might think I'm reaching with that. It could be, right? But I don't think that most of her fans are even men. Like, I don't even know. So is she gonna magically get more male fans because of this? Is she gonna get, more male attention because of this album cover? I genuinely don't know, because I don't think that an album cover alone is gonna make somebody listen to music. I don't think that's what album covers do. They can do that. They really can, but I just don't think that this album cover is gonna make people listen who weren't fans of her, who, were like, oh, she never appealed to me visually in the first place. Now I'm gonna listen to her music. Like, I don't think that's what's gonna happen. Like, can we be so for real, y'all? You could say it's very for the male gaze. You could say that, like, oh, this is something that would appeal to men generally. I could see that. But I don't think that everything a woman does that's necessarily like sexual has to be male gazy. Like, she is a straight woman at the end of the day. This could just be telling a story of, her life, or like the life that she wants to portray in this album. It doesn't necessarily have to be attractive to men. It could be attractive to men, but that could be like a point that she was never trying to make. She could have just been like, well, this is what, this is how her life is, and it's portraying parts of her life, right? So I think that's a whole other thing. I don't know, y'all can let me know. But yeah,
by stories that train women to find smallness hot, to see being controlled as intimacy. Feminists like Catherine McKinnon and Bell Hooks have long warned, just because something feels good doesn't mean that it's free. So the real question is, who taught us to want this? And the industry is very good at making
and that's another thing. Like, who's to say that she doesn't genuinely like, her job, or, doing what she's doing? Who's to say that she genuinely didn't have a mood board? She came up with this and was like, yeah, we're gonna have the photo shoot like this. Like, she could like actually like this, or she could be like, I want to create a character that does this, let's do this. I don't know.
Was once profitable. The song is co-produced by Jack Antonoff, arguably the most influential male producer shaping pop's current feminist aesthetic. His brand is basically turning feminine exhaustion into hits. He's helped package a lot of Mr. Cassie. It goes to a legacy of being dehumanized, animalized, and made into property. So no, the image doesn't contradict the song. The problem is that it matches it all too well. They both reflect a fantasy that's already been shaped by power, and when that fantasy gets branded as empowerment, we stop asking the harder questions. So that brings me to the third.
I also think that's another thing. I'm not necessarily a fan of like certain songs where people are like, oh my gosh, my boyfriend cheated on me again, but I'm gonna stay with him anyways. I'm so beautiful, smart, powerful, mature. Anyways, I'm gonna stay with my loser boyfriend. Like, I low-key, high-key hate songs like that. And I hate when people even like do that in real life or try to tell you about their problems. Oh, my boyfriend did this again, my boyfriend did this again, and then they still stay with a boyfriend. But it's like, okay, girl, I don't know, that's your choice. You do you. I don't know, like, you do you. Whatever. But I also don't think Oh my gosh.
fantasy gets branded as empowerment, we stop asking the harder questions.
But oh yeah, I don't think that people are necessarily saying, "Oh, this is empowering." Like sometimes people make bad decisions, bad choices in their life, and that's what it is. Like their boyfriend cheated on them. They're making songs about their boyfriend cheating on them. If you want to hear it or not, that's what happened. That's the truth. They never said it's a good thing just because it happened. So, I don't know. There's that.
So that brings me to the third school of thought.
I am 1 year free of nicotine and I have never felt better. I didn't know if I would ever be able to say that, but
She's objectifying herself and setting women back X amount of years.
Sabrina Carpenter and all that fucking bullshit that's going on. It is a desecration of women. It is misogynistic. It is an agenda that is so deep to oppress and keep women so low and to enslave women and to trap them in patriarchy, in misogyny, in sexism, that if you don't fucking see how blatantly loud this shit is, then you need to keep it moving the fuck on.
So this group...
One thing that I really don't like about the critiques like that is that people would rather critique individuals who will, like, say, play into the system than the actual system that exists. Like, people know that patriarchal systems exist, and they'll see a woman who they would say is playing into the patriarchy, and critique them the most. And it's just like, we can critique pick-me's. I am perfectly okay with that. But when you have more problems with people who exist, like they just simply exist in this world and are doing things that they may actually do in their real life. Like she's posing like this, right? And you're saying, "Oh no, this is setting us back. The image is regressive." Y'all would rather critique a woman who does, a photo shoot like this, who does like an image like this, than the actual people who. Yeah. Okay.
Comes in hot with she's crawling on all fours, she's calling herself a
and I'm not one of those people that thinks that you can't talk about two things at once. I think you can talk about, real life examples of, women getting harmed by these systems and critique things that you don't like. But I think that some people are being very disingenuous. I do.
This isn't feminist. It's setting us back, 20 years in feminism. But this kind of outrage...
Yeah, because that's one thing. I've seen people say, "Oh, this is setting us back." There are actual things setting women back. I'm not going to say that media doesn't have any hold on society, because it definitely does. It definitely does. Like, look at all the racial stereotypes that happen in Hollywood from, when Hollywood was like first beginning, like all the blackface, all of the mockery of these quote unquote like stereotypical Native American accents, like all of these like just terrible, disgusting depictions of people of color, and then how people from like all around the world thought, "Oh, this must be true because I seen it in TV." Like media, it sets a tone for so many people for what they'll actually think. It definitely does, right? But I also think that as a consumer, you have to be a responsible consumer. You can't just necessarily believe everything that you see. And also, you can't just see something and say, "Oh, this is representative of me. This is me." So if she's doing this as a woman, as somebody who's in a marginalized group, you can't just exist for yourself. You have to be a representative of all of us. You have to play into respectability politics, because if one of us looks good, none of us looks good. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I just don't. I think, yeah, sometimes, like, okay, if somebody is really making a mockery of themselves or whatever, it can make, I don't know, other people in the group look bad, or people will think that. But it's also not one person's fault to be perfect for everyone, right? Like people will look at Sexy Red, even the critiques that she be getting, like, "Oh, she does this, she does that, whatever. She makes us as black women look bad." Like, she's also just her own person. Like, she doesn't have to represent us all. If that's not how you act, that's just not how you act. The people who will associate her behavior with every single black woman in existence, they're just basing their life on stereotypes. Even if it's someone else, even if it's Michelle Obama, if somebody sees Michelle Obama and is like, "Oh, that's all black women," they're just They're just using someone as a stereotype, as a representative for all of us. And that's not how it should be. Rather you think somebody's actions are good or bad, rather you think someone's a good or bad representative, or just like person in general. Like Michelle Obama, she's so respectable to a lot of people, right? But if somebody says, "Oh yeah, she represents all black women," that's just not true. Even as good as we, as a person, we think she is. Oh, she's so classy. When they go low, we go high, right? Even though she's like all of these great things, she's not representative of all of us, and that's okay. Same thing with the statue in New York. It doesn't have to be a representation of all of us. But there are some women who look like that. There are some black women who look like that. I'm not a black woman who is taller and plus size, but there are some, and that's okay. I never got offended. Like, I'm 4'10", dark skin, not as big as like that statue, weight wise, height wise, metaphorically, whatever, right? But like, I didn't get offended. I'm like, okay, sis. Is it my favorite statue? No, the pose is kind of blank. I mean, the pose is just kind of basic. The outfit, basic. But in terms of seeing a dark skin, I'm just gonna say she's dark skin, but like a dark skin, taller, plus size woman represented, I was just like, okay, cool, right? I think the pose could have been different. I'm not gonna lie, the pose could have been different. The outfit could have been different. I would have liked it more, but it wasn't bad. Okay, not everything has to be like a perfect representation of you. I don't know, or has to always represent you.
Age often slides into respectability politics, the belief that women must behave properly to protect feminism's image. That's not the real issue. What's more interesting, at least to me, and necessary, is to ask whose gaze is this serving? Because even if Sabrina is in control of the image, it still reads like a man's fantasy. The girl is on her knees, her hair is pulled, the mouth is slightly open, it's subhuman. Even if Sabrina Carpenter is in control of that image, it still operates within the male gaze, a term coined by Laura Mulvey to describe how visual culture frames women as objects of heterosexual male desire. And despite common misconceptions, the male gaze doesn't just exist in film and cinema. It saturates everything from fashion photography to album covers. It's a structural way of seeing that rewards women for looking desirable, controllable, and small in a man's image. Carpenter's image checks all those boxes. She's on her knees, her hair's in a man's mouth, her mouth is parted. She's posed not as an agent, but rather as a fantasy, and it's a male fantasy. So yes, women can consent to this, but what are they consenting to exactly? Why does degradation read as sexy in the first place? This isn't just a personal preference, it's a product of patriarchy scripting desire. So while women can absolutely consent to these performances, we need to interrogate the conditions shaping that consent. Is it really on her own terms if the script is still written by power? I don't think this take is about purity culture or pushing conservatism. Just because something looks good or is styled in a trendy, empowering way, like being sexy, ironic, or for the girls, doesn't mean that it's actually liberatory or feminist. And let's not forget, even men don't seem to care. As B from the Digital Meta writes in her Substack piece, men don't even like Sabrina Carpenter. The assumption that she's performing for straight men falls apart when you actually ask them. On male-dominated forums, analyzes it.
How dare a woman just embrace her sexuality? What's wrong with that? So close, so close. I think a lot of people are taking issue with it, not because they're more conservative, but because they're reacting to the conservative, misogynistic culture that we're in right now. We live in a world where teenage boys have access and are watching so much violent porn that teenage girls are suffering from it and literally being choked during their first encounters without consent or full understanding of what they're doing. You couple that with the fact that Sabrina Carpenter's whole vibe, her whole aesthetic is being sexy little baby, coquette, Lolita. One of my favorite people on here tell.
I also think that, like, in general, people have done this with Sabrina Carpenter before when it came to her concerts, but I think in general people have a problem with not like raising, if you're an adult, raising yourself, or if you have a kid, raising your kid. People were talking about Sabrina Carpenter's concert and were like, this isn't age appropriate. Why would you do this? Why would you? And it's like, why are you bringing your kid? She's not supposed to be anything. She's just supposed to be doing what she wants. Like, she's her own person, whatever. You need to look into stuff before you bring your kid there, right? And it comes to like all these other things too. Like, we're talking about in this video, she's talking about people have been strangling their girlfriends. No matter what media you're watching, it's like these people are strangling their girlfriends not because somebody else did it. They're doing it because that's what they want to do. Like, we're putting the blame on so many other people. That's like, oh, do video games make children violent? Like, it's kind of been debunked all the time. Like, not everybody who plays a violent video game is going to be violent. We have to talk about like these actual people who are doing these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people in power, people in our day-to-day lives. Like, if people are doing bad things, it's because they're going to do bad things. Nobody's going to become ultra I guess what people are trying to say, like, nobody's gonna become ultra conservative because a trad wife is on TikTok. Nobody's gonna become an ultra conservative because Sabrina Carpenter is doing a pose on her album cover. Like, if they're gonna be conservative, they were already gonna be conservative. Like, let's be honest. And I think that art does shape culture, but like, y'all want to put all the onus on artists and not even tackle like what's going on in somebody's like psyche. That's
Josh, he said in his video about this that like if what you're doing is indistinguishable from what you're making fun of, then it's not satire, and that's true.
I can agree with her there. I don't think that everything has to be, yeah.
Carpenter goes like this. She's not doing it for men, she's doing it for the girls. Her audience is mostly women. This is feminist performance art. People just hate confident women being sexy on their own terms. But just because women consume something doesn't mean that it wasn't made under patriarchal conditions. Desire doesn't exist in a vacuum, and neither does empowerment. If the only kind of confidence we celebrate is the kind that still looks like submission, small, pretty, petite, compliant, then we haven't really escaped patriarchy. And this isn't new. Lana Del Rey would...
But that's also another thing. I don't think that's the only thing that people are celebrating, because there are multiple artists. Like, you know, this is the time that we could bring up Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion is a taller woman who has talked about, you know, like being herself. She's extra confident, but also assertive. And I don't see that as a negative. So when I'm saying assertive, I'm not saying that in a stereotypical, oh, she's such a masculine. I'm not saying that at all. Because people associate that with that when you talk about black women, like, oh, if you say someone's confident and assertive, they're gonna be like, oh, you're saying that as a negative. I'm not saying that at all. But she's someone who's doing something, like, I would say technically different from Sabrina Carpenter, and she's been celebrated. She's been so I don't think that people are celebrating one way of doing what they do as artists.
Dragged, especially by feminist media, for glamorizing submission, romanticizing predatory men, and dabbling in Lolita aesthetics. Her lyrics weren't ironic enough. Her performance felt too sincere. But now Sabrina is doing something similar, leaning into the same tropes of infantilization and toxic desire, and she's being celebrated for it. So what's changed? What is the difference? Is it just the tone? Is it not as cheeky enough? Is it the lyrics? The lighter aesthetic? Sabrina's sexuality is packaged in sugar and a little bit of spice. Saucy puns, tiny dresses, coy subversion. She gives a submission with a wink. Desire with plausible denial.
There's really one more part of this video that I want to talk about. I don't know where exactly she mentioned it, but it's how she compared what's going on to other places in society. I thought it was just very off-putting and weird, so I want to get to
ability. But let's not ignore that she's still playing in the same terrain. She even fed the Lolita discourse herself, posting a photo of a library stocked with children's coloring books and paper dolls next to Playboy magazines, side by side. So when people called it out, she said that she'd never even seen Lolita, but come on. She's gesturing toward transgression, but she's never stepping over the line. And that is the key difference here. Lana's work made people uncomfortable because white, thin, and heavily stylized. Then we're not expanding empowerment, we're more just reinforcing its boundaries. And if feminism becomes indistinguishable from branding, then desire becomes just another algorithm, optimized, sanitized, and sold back to us in girl-sized packaging. So this brings me to my final school of thought. Why are we even debating this? She's a pop girly doing pop girly things. It's not that deep. And sure, Sabrina is a pop star. This is an industry where sex sells and where women often use that image to survive it. But saying it's just capitalism pretends that capitalism sells sex evenly, neutrally, and fairly. It doesn't. Capitalism rewards the kind of femininity that centers male desire while pretending it's ironic.
Okay, another thing too, if we're gonna compare artists that are black and white who are like, I guess you could say similar, I think another thing is a kind of fair comparison might be Britney Spears and Aaliyah. And I only say that because both of them have done R&B and pop music. Both of them have, you know, been young in the industry, in the music industry, entertainment industry, and they've both been like sexualized from a very young age before they were even adults. And I would say that that would be more of a similar comparison in terms of all of that. But even then, I think that the way the mainstream media, not even mainstream media, like these tabloids and stuff approach them was different. So it's like, I don't think that people have enough good examples of, oh, well, she can do it, but other people can't. I think that people do have examples, but they're just really in the past. Like, because a lot of people aren't doing the same thing right now. So a lot of people in music are kind of either in their own genre and they're doing the same thing as people in that genre, or they're, you know, I don't know, they're just in two different genres, so they're doing different things. That's why the Megan Thee Stallion, Sabrina Carpenter comparison doesn't make sense. Even when because later in this video, she brings up Cupcake, And I'm like, Cupcake and Sabrina Carpenter are two different artists. They're not even, you can say they're being sexual, right? They're not even sexualizing themselves in the same way. We can be honest and say that they're different. Like, let's be honest.
And that's exactly what Sabrina's cover is doing here. It's the same game, but it's different rules. So let's talk about Sydney Sweeney, because what's happening to her is just as revealing as what's happening around Sabrina. Sydney Sweeney posted jokes and criticism and resentment. But why? It's not just that she's being sexy, it's that she's being sexy for men and for... She's just getting that bag. And Sabrina, she is crawling on the ground, hair pulled, calling herself a man's best friend. But because it's framed as satire and because she's this tiny, petite, cute, pinup girl who's for the girls, it's framed as satire, as pop commentary, as aesthetic, and she gets a pass. So yeah, they're both capitalists, they're both selling sex in very different ways, but Sabrina sells a version that flatters the male gaze and flatters feminism. Sydney sells a version that doesn't apologize, and for that, she is punished. And that's the problem, because if only certain kinds of sexiness, thin, ironic, submissive, safe, get called feminist, then what we're calling feminism is just white feminism. The kind that doesn't want revolution, it wants rebranding. The kind that claps for pop stars crawling on the floor but stays silent on reproductive violence, sexual exploitation, or gender apartheid. The kind that centers feelings over structure and aesthetics over action. Because while people are writing essays about whether Sabrina's leash is empowering, women are being bombed in Palestine, raped in Congo, sterilized in ICE detention.
Okay, this was the part. This was the part that really got me. Oh my gosh. This is kind of insane to me. I'm gonna let you guys hear what she said, and then I'll talk about it. Like, I'm gonna let you fully hear what she says, and then we'll talk about it, because wow. Okay. Let me do it like this so you can see everything.
Problem, because if only certain kinds of sexiness, thin, ironic, submissive, safe, get called feminist, then what we're calling feminism is just white feminism. The kind that doesn't want revolution, it wants rebranding. The kind that claps for pop stars crawling on the floor but stays silent on reproductive violence, sexual exploitation, or gender apartheid. The kind that centers feelings over structure and aesthetics over action. Because while people are writing essays about whether Sabrina's leash is empowering, women are being bombed in Palestine, raped in Congo, sterilized in ICE detention centers. Black trans women are being murdered. Indigenous girls are vanishing. Working class mothers are being evicted. But this is what makes the news. This is what gets the clicks. This is what feminism becomes when it's being gutted of solidarity and sold back to us as merch. And if feminism can't hold all of us, can't center the real shit, then what exactly are we fighting for here? What are we writing all these think pieces for? And now let's talk about what if a black woman did what Sabrina did? Because
okay, did y'all hear that part? The reason I say that part is crazy to me is because during that whole very true section of her video, she says, "Oh, we focus too much on kind of these surface level topics that you could say technically aren't that surface level, but we focus too much on these specific topics instead of the violence that other women are going through." And then she just moves on from talking about that, and she says, "These things don't make the headlines, but this does." Meanwhile, this video is 30 minutes talking about Sabrina Carpenter and the male gaze. And I'm not going to do the exact, I don't know how long it was she was talking about it, but she just mentioned all of these atrocities that women are going through, these harmful things that women are going through for less than 5 minutes. It wasn't even 3 minutes. It could have been exactly a minute, blank seconds, right? And it's just well, the point that you're making, you're not even trying to be a part of the change. You care about these issues about women who are facing extreme violence, and then you're saying, "Oh, we don't talk about this enough." This is the stuff that makes instead album covers are making headlines, but this isn't. So anyways, what if a black woman did this? You could have at least talked about these issues a little bit longer, and if you want us to say, "Oh, these issues, they don't get the clicks and views that they need," for algorithm purposes, you don't have to make a whole video on it, because maybe you're right, people won't actually click on it. But you could have talked about the intricacies of these things that people have went through, so that your audience can get it and really understand, and we could have a dialogue about those things too. But no, you didn't even talk about that for more than 5 minutes. You could have gotten to the nuances of at least a little bit of what's going on with the woman in Congo, with the woman in ICE. Instead, you use these women as a gotcha moment. Is that not weird? Is that not weird to you? And if we look at her videos,
let's talk about a very
and I don't know, I don't really watch her videos, but yeah, she doesn't really have any videos talking about what's going on in Congo. Like, she doesn't have any videos talking about what she was talking about. So that's just crazy to me. I think that's all I'm going to be talking about for today. But yeah, this discourse, I feel like a lot of it doesn't make sense. But also, one, I don't know, commentary piece that I really liked was the piece by Kimberly Nicole Foster. I thought that was great. Y'all go check it out. I gotta get my dog. All right, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Bye. I'm about to go now. Hold on.